Greetings and a warm welcome. How are we all feeling at the moment? Today's topic is on mind reading. And don't we just love it when someone says, oh, you said it this way, so you must have meant this. And it is so frustrating because a mind reader is someone who assumes they know how a person is operating out of their model of the world. But mind reading is dangerous. It creates assumptions, judgments, it hurts people, and it disconnects you even more from the human experience. It puts a block to your communication. Mind reading is dangerous because that is the quickest way to isolate yourself. That is the quickest way to become inhuman, is when you start mind reading. And that's the thing. We can never know what is going on for other people. We can only relate to them using empathy. We can only listen actively. But you are not in that person's body. You cannot connect a USB from your brain to someone else's. And we can never know where a person is operating out of, what their journey has been like, what their experiences, what they're feeling in their bodies, what they're feeling in their hearts. We are not in the position to say that we know another person's circumstance or another person's situation when we ourselves don't have all the facts. And that's why mind reading is bad, because it's usually done without all the facts, assuming that we know instead of seeking to understand. And mind reading is the greatest way to form judgments. Oh, you are bad because of your behavior. Oh, you are bad because I think you think that way. And mind reading also has a lot to do with the intention. Oh no, I said it like this. Yeah, you said it like that, but you meant it in this way. That is mind reading. Because you cannot truly know what another person's intentions are unless you communicate that or unless they show you. But mind reading is a great way to form assumptions about people, judgments, and expectations on who you think they are, or who you think they should be. And judgment takes you away from what it actually is to be human. Judgment is assuming that you are perfect. Judgment is pointing the finger that everyone else is making mistakes. But sometimes we need to point the finger closer to home, which is something mind readers don't do. That's why they form these assumptions and judgments. And these assumptions that they create, that mind readers create, can be very hurtful. And the expectation to be bad, to be the worst, to be hurtful, to be offensive, to be stupid, to be useless, these assumptions force people to think of themselves in a way that they wouldn't have in the first place, because people just assume that they are the way they are because of X, Y, and Z. And that is very, very dangerous for a person's self-image, self-esteem, and self-worth when they are becoming aware of what horrible things are expected of them. And that's why assumptions and judgments can be very hurtful, very unhelpful, very destructive, and it singles a person out. It makes them feel inferior and patronized. Another thing about mind reading, and if you've ever experienced mind reading in a relationship where your partner says, yeah, I know what you're feeling, I know you're thinking this and this of me because of this and this, and it sort of puts a barrier in your relationships. Mind reading ruins bonds and relationships. It's a barrier because that person cannot be unapologetically themselves with you, because you are not unconditionally accepting. You are just assuming and judging. And that is what's going to lower the quality of your relationships. That is what's going to suck the value out of the meaning you create from those relationships. So be careful, because mind reading means that you think you know what a loved one is thinking. But if you don't give them the space to express themselves, they're not going to be open and honest with you. We can only learn to understand someone by observation, observing how they react and respond. But the biggest way that we can only truly learn to understand someone is through communication, both verbal and non-verbal communication, because communication clears up the misunderstanding created through mind reading, created through the problems of the assumptions and the judgments. And we can't understand a person in any other way by getting to understand their model of the world and actively listening. And that brings me to my next point. Mind reading acts as a barrier to listening, because you just assume what the person is thinking, you just assume what the person is feeling, and because you have created this judgment, this expectation, it stops you from actively listening, paying attention to not only what is being said, but what is being conveyed, because you've already made this assumption that you know about this person. And because of that, you won't be able to listen. And listening is not hearing. It's about taking into account the way a person is behaving, what they say, how they say it, and their intentions that follow that. Mind reading is also dangerous in the way that it puts us above or below someone. When you create an expectation that someone is better than you, even though you fail to recognize they're imperfect, you will feel inferior and patronized next to them. But if you create an assumption or judgment of someone who who's worse off than you, then you might feel better than them and put on this pedestal. And that level of equality starts to dissipate until eventually you are either more than or less than, but never worthy enough. And that's the danger of mind reading. And another problem with mind reading is that we respond to what we think someone says. We respond to the meaning that we create from the judgments and the assumptions that we have formed based on this person. And we respond to what we think they said instead of what they actually mean, what they actually meant. Because your judgments and your expectations and your assumptions are so rigid, you lose the whole point completely. And that can create a lot of issues with building relationships, and it can cause issues in developing good communication and healthy communication, because you've already assumed the worst, or you've already assumed better. Either way, you've assumed that this person is in some way what you have created in a mental image of them. And the thing is with mind reading, because of all of these assumptions, these judgments, these expectations, these preconceived ideas, it cancels out the process of understanding. Because if you're not actively listening, if you're not trying to gauge what another person is experiencing, then you don't understand. And not only do you not understand other people when you mind read, you stop understanding yourself, where your emotions come from, because of your expectations, assumptions, and judgments. And the worst of all is with mind reading, it destroys your empathy, your ability to relate, your ability to be in someone else's model of the world. Because empathy is warmth, it's creating understanding, it's gauging the emotional quality of the communication and what is being expressed. So mind reading makes you quite a cold person, an unrelatable person, an unreliable person, a really closed off person, someone that people don't necessarily want to communicate with, because no one likes being judged. No one likes assumptions made out of them, and no one wants people to expect the worst from them. Remember, mind reading is unhealthy. Don't seek to mind read. Seek to create understanding and prioritize bonds instead of being right or going off on your own assumptions, because mind reading is dangerous. So remember, you are unique and valuable. Take care of that stunning person. Stay strong wherever you're from. You are worthy.